Let's see, it is 6 o'clock, and I will call the January 2nd, 2024 City of Montgomery Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to order. Is there any citizens on the agenda? Okay, so we will pass that. We'll move on to item number 1, election of planning and zoning commission officers.
Members of the commission, again, so typically this is done in October with a delayed appointment process, an application process, we're a couple months behind. There is a suggested wording and process to use for the nominations. I'm happy to go through it if you guys would like. Just a couple points of note. You don't nominate through a motion, so you don't need to make a motion to nominate someone. Once the floor is open for nominations, you say, I nominate so-and-so. You do not need a second. And everybody nominates whoever they want before the vote is then taken on it. And the vote is through the tally of, how many folks either say yes or no. Again, you don't vote no on a candidate, but you want to vote for, presumably if you nominated someone, you're going to vote for them. So with that, I will turn it over to you, and I'm happy to, again, assist in the nomination process as needed. There's a template there to go through if you'd like.
Okay.
I nominate Bill Simmons for chairman and Tom Chulevich for vice chairman.
We'll do I tell you what, if you guys want to, you can do it how you want, but if you want to do one seat at a time, or, again, it's just going to be a little more, you'll have to, walk and chew gum at the same time.
Yeah, we'll just do one seat at a time. Do chairman first.
Okay.
And then, okay.
I'll repeat that then.
Okay.
I nominate Bill Simmons as chairman.
So if anybody has any other nominations for chairman, that would be the time to make. Bill, that last line there on the first page, that'll close the nominations for you.
Okay, that we're after.
Yep.
After all nominations have been given, okay. Are there no further nominations? Okay, the floor is closed. Let's see. All those in favor of Bill Simpson as chairman,
Say aye.
say aye.
Aye.
Okay, don't sound like there's no no's. So I guess, Bill Simpson is elected as chairperson and now is presiding over the meeting. Traditionally, the seated in the center. Okay, I got that. Okay. Thank you. Now we'll go on to vice chair. Do we have any nominations for vice chair?
I nominate Tom Chulevich for vice chair.
Okay, we have Tom as vice chair nomination. Okay, the commission will first elect a chairperson. Okay, providing offer. The floor is closed. We'll take a vote for vice chair. All in favor of Tom being the vice chairperson, say aye. Aye. Okay, no no's. So Tom is elected the vice chair of the commission. The vice chair traditionally sits in their normal sitting room. Okay, conclusion. Is that it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Now, let's move on to item number 2, consideration and possible action on November 7, 2023 regular meeting minutes.
Dave, what was that for? I thought we voted in favor of those minutes last meeting.
The November one, I think that would have been the October.
Yeah, that was the
23rd.
Oh,
October.
that was the October, I'm sorry.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
I make a motion to accept the minutes from November 7th, 2023, regular meeting minutes.
All right. We have a motion to approve the minutes from November 7th, 2023.
And you have a second.
Second? All right, the minutes have passed. Item number 3, consideration and possible action on the December 5th, 2023 regular minute meetings.
I make a motion to pass the minutes for December 5th, 2023, regular meeting minutes.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the December 5th, 2023 regular meeting minutes,
Second motion.
and we have a second.
You take it.
So that, yep. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So item number 3 passes. Item number 4, consideration of possible action on the wall sign application for Widely Wicked College Store Shop located at 308 Pond Street, Suite C in the Historical Preservation District as submitted by Tiddy McFate? Okay, all right.
The commission got the information in your packet. Again, I'll just touch real quick on wall signs. Again, while the guidelines for the sign ordinance do not apply to downtown, in other words, you guys only have to adhere to them, the standard for wall signs is 60% of the wall or the facade, the elevation of the building. This is, obviously, much smaller. In fact, this sign makes up about 5.5%. Nothing sticks out to me, whether content or location or anything, and staff recommends approval of the sign.
I just have a question. The light is not directly over the door, and where the picture of the sign is going looks to be directly above the door. So the light will be to the right of that door, and if the measurements, which I'm not real great at measuring, but it looks as though that sign may or may not fit where they show that it's going to be. And I'm just wondering, are they aware of that? And if it comes to pass, what are they going to do with that light? I mean, the light's not a hazard or anything right now, but the way the picture looks.
I'm taking it that they've shown us exactly what they're going to do.
Okay. Just the light will be off to the right, not above it, as I've seen in the picture. But that was my question. Is the light placement, will it be moved or?
I don't have an answer to that. The light looks like a security light, not necessarily a sign light.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the consideration for a wall sign application for Wildly Wicked Cottage Store Shop located at 308 Pond Street, Suite C in the Historic Preservation District as submitted by Kendi McFadden.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second for the sign application at 308 Pond Street. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Item number 4 passes. Item number 5, consideration and possible action on a backyard privacy fence at 820 Caroline Street located in the Historic Preservation District as submitted by Scott and Angelia Love.
The commission, as you may be aware from the information, this is an existing house with an existing fence. If I can call your attention to page 44 of the packet, which is the plot plan, and you can see where the applicant is asking to put his elevated privacy fence.
I have a problem with it. The guidelines, the very first line in the guideline says, fences must be constructed and maintained in a vertical position. He's proposing horizontal fence, but the photograph looks good, but it's contrary to what the regulations are, or guidelines.
I think my interpretation would be the fence structure itself, not the members of it. I don't want to, I guess when I read that, I'm thinking that your fence must be standing straight up. In other words, you can't build a fence at a 45-degree angle or leave it to 45.
I don't think that's a proper interpretation. It's pretty clear.
That's fair.
It says form, okay? Fences must be constructed and maintained in a vertical position. In other words, the fence boards go vertical.
Sure, that's definitely not my interpretation, but I'm not voting on it. So,
I also noticed that as well, but I also noticed in some of the description of the request and in our information that you gave us in our packet that before they made it sound like before it was historic, and the house is not historic, but before they had already put the horizontal 3-board fence up before there was guidelines.
right.
And so I did question, it's written here vertical or horizontal. I had the same exact question, but I'm wondering, is that called a grandfathered in because it's already that away? Because I interpreted it as well as the slats of wood are.
Right. The design detail or the aesthetic, composition of it being a horizontal, striation versus a vertical striation, again, to me, the only thing that I would consider that the ordinance, would logically be looking at is the fence standing vertical. In other words, is it, whether or not you, like if you do a brick fence, well, your horses naturally run, horizontal. That I don't feel like that would be outside of it, but your brick fence has to be maintained in a vertical position. In other words, not leaning or folding or sagging.
Another thing I was looking at too is he's not enclosing his entire lot. He's leaving 85% of it as a white picket in his fence. And what he's trying to do, and I like to know the timeline of what's behind him.
Yeah, I have a
He's
question.
he's trying to block what's going on back there. And you get on Google Map and starting in 9 of 22, it was trees back there and no shed.
Right.
And you go now, and there's hardly any trees back there. It's all dirt, and now there's a shed back there. And I don't know what they're doing, but I can understand why he wants to protect his property.
That property owner came to the planning and zoning and asked us several questions prior to putting up a privacy fence and what he could and couldn't do with the property because it was in a historic district. He brought before us, and he told us that it was belonged to his family and it was gifted to him, and he wasn't going to do anything. He put the privacy fence up because of the dogs that he had, is what he came to the
That
meeting.
was next door.
I thought it was him.
No, it was next door.
Because I drove by it and I was looking to see
Yeah.
if that was the,
It's that Razor Barber.
yeah, but
That's
I,
next door. This is the guy.
with the vintage, well, the historic home with the garage in front that used to have
It's
the,
next door to that.
okay.
Yeah.
Wrong house in.
He's
Yeah.
doing maintenance on 4-wheel drive vehicles.
Yeah, I got the wrong house in, I drove by twice.
I may be able to shed some light on this. They, as you were saying, there was tall trees there, and then later a shed appeared. The people living on Caroline started raising free-range chickens, and that caused the need for a privacy fence to keep the chickens out, as I recall. And I'm telling you this from memory.
Yes, and there was free-range chickens, yes,
Yeah.
also in there,
Yes.
yes,
Became quite an issue at one
yeah.
time.
Okay. So, I can see why the Loves want to kind of protect their view of what they're seeing back behind there. I mean, is there a business running out there? Do you know?
I'll be honest, I don't. I've not talked to the property owner behind him since he came to the commission for the change.
They've removed a lot of trees since '22.
Well, this guy's application infers that they are running a business back there.
He does.
Yeah.
Per the person asking for the variance, or when that gentleman that owns that property now with the shed or the building and four-wheelers and ATV vehicles, don't we have something on him coming to the planning and zoning?
Mention him. I think I
Remember
lost a variance. When you said a variance, the gentleman asked for a
The
variance.
people at
He's asking-
Caroline Street, they're asking for a variance, right? Because they want their fence to be taller than 7 foot, okay?
They're not asking for a variance, they have to get the approval to build any fence in the backyard that's visible from the right of way.
It's going to be a variance anyways, because if they build it, if we say, yes, there's a variance because of the
Height.
So
the height
variance is
goes,
a specific thing, and we're not granting a variance.
Okay.
We don't have a regulation that he is looking to not follow.
okay,
A building permit is required when a fence is over 7 feet, but that's not a code that we have or an ordinance that we have that limits the height of fences. So all the
Okay.
fence regulations are here in your packet.
I read them too, and I was looking for where it went from 7 foot to 12 foot, and I read through what you gave us, and I was like, I wonder if there's going to be something about the 12 foot, but okay, there's none.
Yeah, there's not a variance, so nobody's asking for a variance here.
So what are we supposed to do as a planning and zoning commission about information that may or may not be completely accurate, but has been presented to us, and someone is having to do something to their property to avoid something that is hindering their view or their quality of life or their freedom to see what they want to see? Are we supposed to do anything about what has been brought to us and written down?
That's all code enforcement.
All right.
Right, that's, just, generally outside of the purview of,
All right.
to me, so my recommendation, when you consider this fence, really, you should be considering it on the merits of, this request. You can take into account the why, why he's asking.
Okay.
But in terms of a code enforcement violation on on another property, I wouldn't tie your decision to
Yeah.
that.
I can see what he's there trying to accomplish. And to me, I know they have to keep the historical outlook on your fronts and your sides were visible to everyone, but I think they should have a right to be able to block off something in the back if it's disturbing to them.
I agree with that. My only, and I'm not against it, I'm not going to necessarily vote against it, but my only hesitation would be the design is slightly less than historical than what we've seen in the past, and especially what we approved down the street. But just the height as well. But the height is necessary for his reasons why, and that's understandable. It's just a slight concern of mine of setting that precedence of something in the historical district being that tall, and that future want that somebody may bring up.
The application is for a 6-foot fence, right?
It is going to vary from
6 to
6 to 12 feet.
6 to
12 was his estimate.
when it runs down the hill.
I'm sorry.
Because of the terrain.
Yeah, because the grade, it will follow the grade line because of all the stuff that's,
He's attempting to have the top line
Yeah,
level
okay.
and follow the terrain at the bottom.
yeah. Which is just opposite of doing what the neighbor has where it's stepped down and it'll be the opposite, so it's.
Well, I would think there'd be a real issue with a 12-foot section of vertical wood fence and being able to maintain it the first storm they had. You can't put a 12-foot, standard 12-foot fence up and not have the wind take it down. Be my first.
Well, he's using aluminum posts too.
Aluminum posts.
Those bend.
And it's not white like the rest of his fence. It is horizontal like the rest of his fence. And he's going, I would call that more modern than what's down the street from them that follows the flow. But can't say very much about metal because those new homes down the hill across from the park have metal fence as well in front of them. And everyone else around with their privacy fences are similar in structure. Like this fence would be the only horizontal fence with black aluminum breaking it up. So it's not like in line with what's going on that street in the historic district.
Oh, excuse me.
But there's nothing, is there anything in our ordinance about the color? Like, does it have to be white?
It's
Is
the
it
historical nature of it.
just historical nature?
Yeah.
It
That's
says it's
pretty,
supposed to blend in with the
yeah.
building, the
It's pretty
property.
modern.
The horizontal line certainly, it's a different look. You know, the house is probably the 1980s, you know, ranch style, looks like it's got a vinyl siding over whatever original siding, you know, was on the house.
But they own a lot next to them, right?
They do, they own to the left there that's partially inside that fence.
Yes.
You know, to Bill's point earlier, they're not doing that whole backyard, but just what's right behind their house.
I thought they were doing it up to the back of their house. They're turning the corner and coming up.
Yeah, so they're not getting on, you know, on the vacant lot that they own at all, just.
But are they they're turning the corner and bringing that fence up to the back of their house?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, that's right, on page 44 there, it's, you know, shows it, you know, from the left corner of their house back around to the garage.
And so they would, only on the side with the side with the Texas flag painted on it?
Right.
Or on the other side?
No, he's going to replace the gate on with the Texas flag.
Yeah, I seen it. He was saying that corner because I went and looked and I was wondering if he was bringing it up.
They own this whole.
Okay, it's just down the back side.
Well, you were asking about the color. It says in the guidelines, wooden fences must be stained or painted a color that is complementary to the main building. So that's what they showed in the picture, probably applies, would work.
I recall there have been issues between the neighbors, and you know, that regardless of whether it's in the historical district or not, this is a present-day home, and to do anything other than to let them have I think the 12-foot fence is a mistake, but other than to let them have a standard height fence, or maybe even a 7-foot fence I think there's some compromise there. And I wouldn't require them to paint it. You know, I think this is a modern day neighborhood. It's not what might be in the historical district. It doesn't, certainly not historic in nature.
Certainly, you guys, if you felt that you wanted to add a cap on that height, that would be something that, you know, that to me, the commission could do.
Over 7 foot, they require a permit?
Does. The building code is pretty silent on what it requires in terms of what you need to submit with that.
Okay.
You know, generally, most cities they just want to see the post spacing, a detail of the foundation.
Okay.
You know, just a typical fence detail. But there's not like a set of inspections that you fall into or something like that. It's really the discretion of what the plan reviewer is going to look at and say, is what I need to see on this.
I think it's a little deceiving when he's asking for in my opinion, a 12-foot fence, because the 12-foot, it's going to be from 6 foot straight across. The 12 is going down this
Because the
way.
land
He's
is-
not putting it up 12 foot high. He's putting the height on the bottom to block off the bottom property. So the way I'm understanding it, will be 6 foot or the same level from one corner to the other.
What about coming down south?
Somehow it's
That would be my question. Does he switch from 12 foot back to 6 foot, coming south towards the house? Or does he continue that
It
12 foot to stay
probably
continuous?
would, yeah.
Well, the 12-foot is where the land goes low.
Right.
But does the land come back up? That's my only question.
I believe it probably
would
does
assume it
come back
does.
up.
That's
Yes, so he'll have
typically the
to follow
drainage
that
part.
same contour up to the corner of his house.
So he has a level scene when
So
he
you
looks
could
at it.
require him to build either a 6 or 7 foot fence and then simply underpin it where that sag is in the ground
Yeah,
and
that's
accomplish.
exactly what he's asking for.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Right.
And that's not gonna help the height issue. Really, if he puts it 6 foot,
Yeah.
you still gotta have to underpin it to get it to
Right.
whatever
Yeah.
situation is there.
Right.
It doesn't seem like that's enough height to hide the backyard.
Yeah.
6 foot?
What's the material, does he say? I'm sorry, I don't have a computer.
It looks like either cedar or treated wood. See, there's the guy behind him.
Okay.
So he's going to come straight across.
Well, you got the picture of the fence too. the
Yeah,
proposal.
that's the guy behind him.
Yeah,
So he'll come, and I think the house, well, it'll come right here.
This shows a horizontal fence, so is this a vertical fence or a horizontal?
That's the neighbor's.
Okay.
That was put up sometime. I have no idea, that in the shed. But this is Scott's right here, and it'll come to here, then towards College.
Bill, scroll up to the next picture.
Some of these fences are going to be back there.
There's the fence there, it's horizontal, it's like that, like, there you go.
It's a good looking fence.
Yeah, it's not cheap. He's putting a lot of money into that.
And again, it's very, very little of it's visible from the street.
So if we agree to this, Dave, do they have to come to you when they go to, we're going to put the stipulation in there that when they go to do the land contour and the baseline, that it's just going to equal to a certain amount of height, right? They're not going to have to come to you for a permit because that fence goes 12 feet high.
Well, you would need a building permit. If it's
Even though, okay,
Yeah, basically, he would get an email that said,
I'll second it.
And we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, motion passes. Item number 6, discussion of Planning and Zoning Commission's participation in the capital improvements plan update.
oh, I printed one out and left it in my car. I said, I'm looking at this, I printed it out on our big printer.
All right, well, good evening, members of the commission. Happy New Year. Hope you all had a good holiday season.
Thank you, you too.
What we wanted to discuss with you tonight is impact fees and the reconvening of the Capital Impact Advisory Committee. So I know that there are some new members, and I think we've talked about impact fees before when we've presented feasibility studies to y'all. A little bit of backstory. So the city adopted the impact fee ordinance, allowing the city to assess impact fees on new development back in 2016. Every few years, this has to be updated, and the impact fees have to be reevaluated, and the project list that goes into it has to be reevaluated and confirmed. Part of the process is that as you go through, you have a project list, both water and wastewater projects that need to be done that are directly related to growth. These are not necessarily maintenance projects. They're projects that if the city stopped growing and we had no new connections, these would not necessarily need to be done. So this is all based on growth, which is why only new connections pay impact fees. The next step to that is you complete the analysis, you come up with proposed revised impact fees or updates to it. And then there is the convening of a committee called the Capital Impact Advisory Committee. They are a committee that is not the elected body, so it's not city council. That is a separate party to review land use assumptions, the project list, and essentially be another set of eyes on the impact fee analysis and the land use assumptions that are made that go into it. So historically, when this was first done, there was a separate Capital Impact Advisory Committee, or CIAC, if you will. This was a group of residents of the city of Montgomery, and since it has been so long, we have discussed it with staff, and we feel it would be wise for the Planning and Zoning Commission to serve as the CIAC. A couple of reasons for that is part of your role is planning, and part of that is looking into the future, and that's critical when we're preparing impact fees and deciding what is going to go where and trying to plan for the future. The other advantage is that y'all already meet monthly, and so we're not trying to schedule a whole separate group of individuals to meet at a separate time. So there is an efficiency aspect of having a CIAC discussion at your regular monthly meeting. What you have in front of you is the city's official zoning map. You've all seen this before. In case you didn't have a hard copy, now you do. Our land use assumptions when we're preparing the impact fees are all based on the city's official zoning map. It's an official recorded document, and so that is generally what is recommended to be used as a guide for the future. Now, of course, none of us know what the future holds, but we do our best, and that's why we do periodic updates, is if things start to dramatically change. So all we wanted to do tonight was give you guys an overview of what impact fees are, answer questions that you may have, what is the CIAC and what does it do. In your packets, I believe on page 47, there is an excerpt from the local government code that talks about the CIAC and kind of the requirements of it, the roles and responsibilities. There's a certain requirement of how many members have to be part of the building industry or the real estate industry, and I believe that we're covered on the Planning and Zoning Commission between a couple of y'all being in building or real estate, et cetera. So I wanted to bring it before you. We'll bring more information and start getting into a more in-depth discussion starting next month. We plan to discuss this with y'all over the next 3 to 4 months or so. Next steps after the CIAC has reviewed and approved and there's some formal written comments, and we'll guide y'all through the whole process of what needs to be done. Ultimately, there will be public hearings called by the City Council. City Council will also have a chance to review, and then they adopt an ordinance, and then the fees are adopted at that point. And then the update process is complete. So this will go over the next, like I said, 3 to 4 months, and then we'll be complete.
So this concerns connection fees, correct?
Correct. So the only people that are impacted by this, like I said, are brand new connections, not somebody moving into a home that's changing accounts, not somebody whose meter gets replaced. These are brand new connections, like the new subdivisions, a new commercial user that goes in. Okay. The timing of whether or not they get a kind of your traditional tap fee or whether you pay an impact fee is depending on the time of when you plat. So if a property was platted before December of 2017, when these really went into effect, you're exempt from impact fees. So for example, Discount Tire was platted in 2017 earlier, so they do not pay impact fees, they pay regular tap fees. Montgomery Bend, as an example, is brand new, and they are working through the platting process that we talked about last time. They will all pay impact fees.
So what's on an impact fee? Connections and what?
You mean what goes into how it's calculated?
What's
or
the difference between a connection and an impact fee?
So when you want to connect to the city's system, you either pay a tap fee or an impact fee. The tap fee is calculated by the actual cost of the city's operator, Hayes Utility, to complete the tap itself, plus 200%. Last month at City Council, we just updated the tap fees because we've changed the contract to a new city operator. So those are based on construction cost and then some to cover the city's expenses as well. Impact fees, the tap is paid at cost, and so there's not that additional 200% that's added on. The impact fee is a combination of a water impact fee, which is based on these future planned projects over the next 10 years. So it's the total amount of projects that we are expecting in the next 10 years directly related to growth specifically, divided by the expected number of equivalent single-family connections over the next 10 years to get a cost per equivalent connection, if you will. And then that's how they're assessed for both water and wastewater. Whenever somebody is supposed to pay an impact fee, it's based on the size of their meter. So a typical home will have a 5/8 inch meter, and so they pay the base impact fee rate. All larger meters have a multiplier that go up from the 5/8 inch meter proportionally, and so the impact fee goes up proportionally with, for example, a 1.5 inch meter is 8 times as large as, I'm misspeaking. Anyway, there's a multiplier that goes into it it's linear and equivalent to the amount of water being used and consumed versus the meter size, and then the fee that is therefore assessed.
And that's assessed to the builder and then passed on to the homeowner?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
When was the last time that this was done, the process?
2018?
22?
Oof.
So everything's escalated pretty dramatically since the last time this was done?
It has. So costs have gone up. We're finalizing up the analysis itself, which is why we're now bringing it to you guys. It's time for the CIAC to start getting involved. We are kind of doing final tweaks on what our proposed revised impact fees will be, and we're not seeing a dramatic increase because some projects have either been completed or over time the need is no longer there. The city's development has kind of gone in a different direction. There's also a lot of expected connections coming in between the developments that we know are coming and making assumptions off of the zoning map of, this area will be residential, this area will be commercial. Making those assumptions, it balances out the cost per connection.
Okay.
For information's sake, would it be possible to show, you've got Conroe ETJ on a map like this, would it be possible to get some way to identify that area being served also by Dobbin-Plantersville?
Sure. Yeah, we can show that certainly. Just for conversation purposes, the area that's within the Dobbin-Plantersville area is on the west side of the city, nothing within the city limits.
South?
West and south. So this large tract here, this is the Redbird Meadows tract. Everything to the west of that is served by Dobbin-Plantersville. And then everything on the northwest side of Lone Star Parkway outside the city limits is served by Dobbin-Plantersville at this time. Or not necessarily being served, but they are within their boundary to be served by Dobbin-Plantersville.
We have to honor their agreement with as a purveyor, right?
We do. And so for this large tract down here, part of their their stipulations of being annexed was that they had to be released from Dobbin-Plannersville. We did not want to get into any kind of situation where the city is serving water to somebody within somebody else's service area. So that was one of their stipulations. So if somebody were to request to be annexed on that part of town, that would be a stipulation that they have to be removed from Dobbin-Plannersville's service area.
At the time that the impact fees were set, the original impact fees, is all the property available on the same impact fee based on the size of the meter? Would be popular areas of town seems to be the east side versus the west side. Was there any consideration going to where the growth is what I'm saying, to adjust the impact fee?
So the impact fee is the same across the city. There's not a west side impact fee and an east side impact fee. We do take into consideration where we're expecting growth to be. We hear trends and kind of hear murmurs of properties going up for sale or somebody's looking to buy, things like that. We take that into consideration. When you're future planning, nobody knows exactly what the future holds,
Right.
so we do our best to make educated decisions. But of course, anything changes, but the impact fee is uniform across the city.
Thank you.
Are the existing streets in the impact fees at all?
Not currently. So currently, the impact fee only is for water and wastewater service. At the staff level, we're talking about looking into a roads impact fee
Okay.
and potentially a drainage impact fee. But at this point, the city does not have roads or drainage.
Hundreds of dump trucks and heavy equipment running up and down our streets that are taking a toll.
Right, yeah, and that's something that we're aware of, and like I said, we're looking into to see what would go into a road impact fee, because the tricky part with a road is that more people use the roads than are necessarily in the city.
Right.
They're very transient, so there's a lot that we're kind of working through on the road side.
Lone Star Parkway is county. Is that who maintains that?
Correct.
Okay. That's where we need to call somebody from the city for a no air brake.
Oh, yeah, Jake break.
Do you have an ordinance?
Because I'll tell you what, there.
Right outside here.
What's that?
I said, out here, right outside City Hall. It's like, guys, the police station's right there. The
Oh,
sign.
man, I'll tell you what.
I can hear in my house.
Yeah, all the pre-construction for the two tech centers over there on Lone Star Parkway, there's literally 100 or so trucks every day right now dumping dirt over there.
So you'll be presenting us with the facts and what you think the fees should be increased in the next 3 or 4 meetings.
Correct. So next meeting, we'll come back to y'all with more the final results of our analysis, where we're thinking. We'll show you a comparison of what your impact fees currently are, what we are proposing them to be. We'll walk you through how we got there. I can send it out ahead of time, so if y'all would like to look at it before, we will send it out ahead of time, so you can look at it ahead of time, prepare any questions that you may have. It can get very detailed, so we'll walk you through it, how we get there. That way you can make the best decision possible.
Okay. And once we look at it and any changes or whatever and approve it, that it goes on to city council?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So you'll have, there has to be written conversation of what happens. Thankfully, P&Z already has minutes, so that you're covered there. So the minutes will serve as any kind of written documentation. And then when you are ready for it to go to council, you'll take action on it.
Do you discuss these impact fee changes and stuff with other communities? Or so you're not reinventing the wheel and getting some information from other communities as they do theirs?
We don't necessarily discuss it with others. We look at what other communities are charging more for information purposes. It's not necessarily going to impact what the city's fees are, because our fees are really based on our needs. And our needs are unique. So while we've looked at Magnolia or Tomball or areas like that for information, The method is pretty clearly outlined in the local government code of how it's supposed to be calculated. It outlines you have to look 10 years ahead, and your projects can only be related to growth. It's pretty clear how it's calculated, or how it's supposed to be calculated, excuse me.
So we're looking at basically for where we're going to see this planned impact fees is mostly in what's under dark green here, planned development.
So the planned development zone that you see is a separate development agreement that a developer has with the city. That's not necessarily where development is going to be. It's a separate designation that the developer had a separate agreement with the city.
So the developer owns all that land?
At one point they did. They've now sold it off. There's Town Creek Crossing, Buffalo Springs, Lake Creek Village. It's now been sold off and developed, but the agreement stayed with the land. So where we're looking is really anything that's undeveloped, just raw greenfield land.
Doesn't that development agreement have an expiration date?
It does towards the end of this month. But
So once we
the
get-
agreement will expire, but the PD zone remains.
The use of the zone, the characteristics of what you have to do when you develop, that expires. Kind of the main, benefit, if there's a benefit to the agreement expiring, is that all developments within this plan development they've had to follow the 2004 ordinances, because that was what was on the books when the agreement was signed. So that is really that's the biggest thing that's going to change with the expiration of that agreement. So the land use and what's allowed to be there, that all stays, and that will stay as long as that zone of PD. What changes is the development that occurs within the PD now has to follow all of the ordinances that are on the books today. So tree preservation, the lighting ordinance, those types of things that weren't here back in 2004, now will be subject to. But the PD itself does stay. The agreement and some of the nuances with the individual developer, those go away, those expire. But the zoning designation of the PD will be that.
So you mentioned, I know this is kind of getting out, I'll wait till you all finish, and I've got a couple of questions.
No, that's all right. I wanted to open it up for questions.
Okay, no, this has nothing to do with the impact fees or anything, so.
Gotcha. Well, so next month we'll come back with more detailed information. Wanted tonight to be kind of an information overview of what is coming for you guys. But like I said, we'll walk you through every step of the way, what needs to be done, what you're looking at, and what kind of action is needed from you guys.
One thing that I have a gigantic concern of, and I don't think that, those fees are going to affect it in any way. My concern is that we're totally surrounded by the city of Conroe and the Dobbin-Plainsville development area. So we're in this we're pretty restricted to growth. So unless y'all know something I don't know, the more, that was my comment at the last meeting about these 45-foot houses. Right now, looks like the budget this year is based half on sales tax. You kind of put the whole sales tax revenue source out of balance by having all these small houses. And the more you do it, the worse it's going to become. I think that the sales tax should be less of the total budget. That's just my personal opinion. I think we're too close. But if we're not careful with what we do with all this, what's left, we're going to have a mess. I think we will.
We got to.
And it's a good segue into the next item, really, because that zoning update and the revenue that the city's going to receive from that is all.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So to speak to your concern about City of Conroe's ETJ, on September 1st, the state passed a new law that allows a developer or a property owner, really, not just a developer, a property owner to request to be removed from a city's ETJ if there is no feasible way for them to provide service. So for most of this area that surrounds the city, from the city of Conroe, Conroe recognizes that there's no possible way for them to provide service. And so it's a matter of the property owner putting in the request, and then they can be released from City of Conroe, and then could come into the City of
I hear
Montgomery.
what you're saying. But that didn't stop them, the business part, because they could have built that out further, and we just brought them to total dead stop.
Any other questions on impact fees?
Nope.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you guys are good on that item, Bill, we can move to item number 8.
Oh, yeah, I almost fell asleep here.
Number 7.
Item number 7.
I'm sorry, 7.
Okay. Move on to item 7, update and discussion of the city's call for planning services requests for qualifications.
Evening all, Gary Palmer, City Administrator. We met with Bill last week on the lighting issue and some other stuff, and we talked a little bit about what the council wanted to do this year as a priority. Over the summer, we met with the council, had a strategic planning session. One of the priorities that came out of that was recodification of our ordinance. I think you all know that's largely overdue. It's going to help you all out tremendously when you're dealing with some of these cases coming in, but it's going to take a lot of work on the front end, and you guys are going to be knee-deep in that stuff. So I wanted to give you an update on what was coming. So we did an RFQ, a request for qualifications for planning services for the recodification of our zoning ordinance. I think the RFQ is in your packets. You'll see it's pretty generic. We put some information in there. Don't have a scope of work or anything. We just want to get a qualified firm. Next step is Dave and I are going to meet with these firms that have responded and decide on which firm to pick, and then we'll negotiate a scope of work, bring that to the council. We budgeted roughly around $120,000 in consulting fees for this, so we're going to try to come back with a very expansive scope of work to spend all that money and get the product that we need to get, which to me is get a fully recodified zoning ordinance. If we have money left over, it'd be nice to do some small area master plans for some areas within the city. Get our maps up to date, get our future land use plan formulated and adopted, and so forth. So nothing for you tonight, just want to tell you that we've got some good firms that responded to this. We're going to be working through this, probably have something back to the council hopefully in the next couple months to approve contract-wise, and then I'll probably be going back to Bill to talk about appointing a steering committee for this process, which I would imagine would be a couple planning commission members, a couple community members, maybe a city council member or two, and city staff. So just wanted to give you that quick update tonight. Any questions for me on this? Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it for that? Okay. I guess that's it for item number 7. I guess we can have a commission inquiry right now. After Gary and David meeting with we have a couple ordinances that are a quick issue that we want to take care of. And I know not everybody's email was not working, plus the holidays. But they have both asked me to appoint at least 2 people to take care of a couple, or one of the 2 issues. I was wondering if Daniel and Miriam would want to do the paint, to work on that paint, because that is critical. And if Tom and John could work on the lighting. I mean, we don't have to have a great amount of information right now, but just maybe some ideas. I mean, you being in the Woodlands, you knew how they operated on their lights. And Tom, with your son's business down here, you're familiar with that part of it. And I believe we're probably going to have to mix that in, not only the lighting, not only with the historical district, but even the outside part of it. One thing you mentioned when we're talking about the impact fees and the planning development, and you mentioned the lighting. So until that green zone is built out, they have no lighting codes at all, correct?
Well, so right now, if the original developer comes to the city and says, I want to develop this 5-acre parcel, the engineers would look at it and say, okay, what are the lighting requirements? Well, in 2004, there were no lighting requirements, so I cannot, look at any of the
Right.
lighting. So what expires at, later this month, the 24th or something of this month, is now whatever development is going to happen in that PD, it has to follow the current zoning, or I'm sorry, it has to follow all of the city's
So,
any type of a development, regulation, whether it's lighting, trees, or anything like that.
okay.
We've been, fortunate in that things like the trees and things like that, that he was not required to do. He, understood and acknowledged if I don't, add any trees, it's not going, I'm going to have a better development that's worth more at the end if I do. But right now, again, a lot of those things, in particular the tree, the landscaping for commercial districts, and the lighting ordinance, those are the three things right now that he doesn't have to do the rest of the development.
So the two school buildings with all the parking lots and the lighting, that it's just free for all there. They don't have to.
I have not looked at those again. Typically, candidly, we've been able to compel compliance when it's not the original developer doing it. He sells it off to somebody, they're going to develop it. We look at, okay, what are the ordinances today? Because again, the agreement says that the developer is the one who has the reprieve.
Right.
The ordinance.
Does the city, is there a meter or some device that is made to gauge?
They do have there is a foot candle, essentially, a foot candle or a lumen, measurement for lighting.
Does the city have one of those?
Very likely not.
Because they're back on 1097. I live on Lone Star Parkway right there. And there's a building that just built back there on 1097. Their lights at my house, they're blinding.
Yeah.
But there's nothing, but that's in that PD district, so there's really nothing that can be done with that, correct?
Now, there's all the way to 1097, so there's a, depending on exactly where you're talking about, it may be outside.
Oh, well, yeah, it's on it's north of 1097. So, but we really don't have a real good, it talks about knockdown lighting and stuff like that.
Right.
But that's about it.
Right, and it's mainly where, so one of the big things right now that the ordinance does is it requires full cutoff fixtures when it abuts residential property. So if a building is on a commercial parcel, not around any residential, they would not have to do a full cutoff fixture, per the ordinance.
That's something we need to work on.
It would be something that we could really, really tighten up. I think right now, again, back when we initially adopted it, it was very, very difficult to get any lighting ordinance passed.
Right. Yeah.
I think now we've been around a while and we've dealt with it enough that I think we could see the benefits of saying, well, just because it's not, adjacent to residential doesn't mean that you can't see it from 100 feet, away or 200 feet away.
Because once they clear cutted that area down and through, it's
Is everything in the city, is it serviced by energy?
Everything, I believe, except for Hills of
Lone Star
Town Creek is
Parkway.
on Mid-South, but I believe everyone else is on.
Harley.
At one time, and that may be something we need to contact energy about,
Here's Jim.
they make a review
Come
of all the
down,
street
you
lighting.
go to that curve
or
here, that first
glare,
road here is
whatever.
Harley, and that curves
Engineers can
around
probably deal with it.
to
But they would do a review
Lone Star.
of everything we built, and they would tell you yes or no. And sometime you could ask them to cut a light off in a particular location. We would review the location of the street lighting. It's amazing to me that we haven't done something, because I think while it's dark in the neighborhoods out there, That commercial strip from here to the loop going east is really, really, I'm surprised there's not more accidents out there just from the lack of lighting. True enough, the businesses all have lighting at their place of business, but that street is dark, real dark.
Which street?
105?
105.
Yeah, from downtown to 2854. I mean, it's dark. But there again, you think about, I'm telling you, to put a light up out there, everybody's going to say the same thing he just talked about. People move out here because they don't want a bunch of street lights shining in their face.
Yeah.
And it has to be the right light, right location, done correctly, not haphazard.
Just tying that off, if I can reach out to the four of y'all on the two different, one on the lighting and then one on the paint board, and work on the getting the process started. Yeah.
Is that it? Okay.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I second it.
And we have a motion and a second. Meeting is adjourned.
Take one for that.
Man.
He still has some.